the one and only Rich and Helen Devos here. You want us to take that off,
Messed up my hair.
Oh, you're fine.
Step down there.
Such a beautiful gift and such a warm and friendly welcome. We thank you. We're honored to be here. I know that Rich is going to speak with you about some of the early happenings at Amway, and his theme will probably be quite a bit different from the few remarks that I'd like to make, but I have some early memories of Amway too. Like many of you, we started in our basement. We had meetings there. There was plenty of room. We had a walkout basement, but no walls because we hadn't finished it yet. It was just a little Cape Cod house. And so we would have the meetings down there and serve the coffee and all that sort of thing. Now, I know that you people have wonderful incentives for building your businesses. You have all these exotic places, Q12 and VIP in Hawaii and Peter Island and trips on the Enterprise. Well, we had incentives too. Would you like to guess what they were? Our incentive was a dinner with Rich and Jay. That's not all. Cooked by Betty and Helen. How about that for a deal? And in a more personal vein, I remember our children spending their summers working at Amway. I guess I particularly remember Dick's first day, since he was the first one to go. Didn't start off particularly well, and yet it did. When he got there, he called and said, well, the roads were kind of slick, Mom, and I did a 180 and ended up in the median, but I'm okay. So I said, well, that's wonderful, and we're very thankful. So he was at his job, and his job was to be a tour guide. So he pinned on his name identification, which read Richard Marvin. We had all agreed beforehand that to leave the Devos off might be better all the way around. A little anonymity can go a long way and be very helpful. So all that summer, he was Richard Marvin. And for the summers that he was in high school, he returned and did his tours. About a year after he was out of high school, he came to Amway and had a job there. He really don't know what he did, but I know he went there every day. And I recall that he was up for a promotion to manager of his department when all of a sudden the Amway training program for the second generation was put into effect. I think Dick felt sort of as if that had lowered the boom, but the next 5 years of his life were spent in every department of the Amway Corporation, learning what it was all about, getting a comprehensive overview. And Dick was also the one who went with Rich and me on our first trip to Australia to buy our Amway name back so that we could establish our first overseas market. I don't know if that had anything to do with his interest in international, but as he progressed in Amway, he became head of the international division. And when he left Amway, he left from that position. By then, he had been working there for 15 years. And he left to start his own business. He went into the venture capital business. He was going to be an entrepreneur on his own. And he did very well. Meanwhile, Rich had a stroke and had to slow down. And following that, he had a heart attack, and that forced him to retire. Dick was asked if he would come and take his dad's place. Now, he was leading his own company. He was enjoying what he was doing, but he consented to leave his position and to come back to Amway. And I am truly convinced that the Lord's hand was in all of this. Dick's length of employment at Amway, his depth of understanding, his years of entrepreneurship outside of Amway, all of these, I think, were in God's plan and were preparing him for the job that he has now. And I want to say to you and to Dick that we're very, very proud, his dad and I, of him and of the job that he's doing. Thank you for letting me share some of my memories with you. It's great to be here. We love you. I know you'll have a wonderful rest of the evening.
Oh, boy, I thought she was going to take my job away from me here for a little while. Helen's been shy about making speeches for a long time, and so of late we've encouraged her to share a little bit of her side of all of this, and so it's a wonderful experience for her, and I trust it is for all of you. As time goes by and you have children and you have grandchildren, I would be remiss if I didn't at least drag out one grandfather joke. And it's the story of this grandson of ours who came over the other day and said, "Grandpa, can you croak like a frog?" And I said, "No, I don't think so." Well, he said, "My dad said that when you croaked, we could go to Disneyland." Now, so my goal is to help them get there without my having to croak their way down there. I got a few other jokes they told me not to tell. But as I look around the hall and as I see so many of you and of all cultures and colors and ages, levels of experience in life gathered together to do what? And I always sit here and things like this, say, what are they doing here? Why do they come? Because unless I can answer that question, I can't respond intelligently to what you're all about or what we're all about. I listen to all the blue suits up here, you know. You got all these big guys and run around with pins, and they're bragging about 3 months and DDs and diamonds and new diamonds and all that stuff. That's all right. Those are bragging rights they earned. See? But tonight I really want to focus as much on some of you who are here for the very first time and don't even know the lingo. You're a little afraid somebody might recognize you here. And have to admit you went to that Amway thing. And I only share that because I know the feeling. And everybody in the blue suits up here know the feeling. And yet I look at you and I look at the struggles you're into, and you're having fun now and you're all cheering each other on, but come Monday morning or Monday night when you invite somebody over and they say, Amway? And you were so sure they were all ready to eat it up. And they're all ready to eat you up. And they think you're wacko for getting conned into this deal. So I want to make sure I talk to you and try to be of good cheer for you, to help you understand that what you're in is not wacko, but it is different. And it does take courage, and it does take fortitude, and it takes the ability to overcome people who laugh at you and ridicule you and all the other things they do. Dick didn't leave his name off because he was ashamed of Devos, but he left it off so that he wouldn't have to have everybody quiz him about whether he was our son. He wanted to be just a tour guide. He wanted to be a person in his own right. And as I thought about that, I think about that's what we're here to do. We're not here to tag you as an Amway person. We're here to help you to become a greater person, period. That's what we're here for. And all the songs you hear and all the music that will be sung and all the speeches that will be given, none of those things can make you successful. Only you, by what you do, can make you successful. You're not going to build the Amway business, you're going to build your business. And that's the vital element of individual creativity. I used to have distributors say to me, well, I'm not going to work any harder, it just helps you get bigger. I said, quit. It's okay. I'm going to get bigger, okay? I'm going to stay with it. If you want to quit, it's your life and your business and your choice to turn your back on it. That's not my problem. I cannot make you succeed. I can't order you around. All I can do is try to encourage you to take charge of your life. And when people come up to me and say, oh, you changed my life, what you started and all, I says, no, I didn't change your life at all. You changed your life. You decided for the first time maybe to take charge of your life. And say, I'm tired of just floating through life and letting everybody else control it. And you know, that's where Jay and I started. And so what I want to take you through, they gave me a speech. They said, it's right here. And they said, one side. They said, you're getting pretty old, and we'll give you one little piece of paper so maybe you won't talk too long. But you'd be surprised how long I can talk on a little card like that. So when we think of the disappointment you have with the person you thought was going to make direct under you, or you thought was going to build a group, and they don't show up, and they move away, and they quit, I want to spend a little time with you tonight laying out for you the foundations on which the business was built when Jay and I and Helen and Betty began the business. Because you have to understand the foundations to know you're working on rock here. That this business is grounded in certain principles that transcend Amway and prevail to life, and they work all over the world, and they work for anybody who's willing to work them. And that's why we are the essence of free enterprise at the grassroots of America and of the world. You know. You hear a lot of talk about freedom, but you're always thinking in terms of capitalism, and you're thinking of big companies, and you're thinking of stock markets. But every one of you in this room is a capitalist. If you own a car or a house or a sales kit, you're a capitalist. And you begin by thinking of yourself as a capitalist with the right to multiply that capital into something greater. But to help hold you up in the dark nights and the lonely drives home when nobody came to the meeting and you think you made a poor presentation and you say, oh, if I'd only said it better. And let me just comfort you a little. You don't have to say it good. A lot of people come to your meetings who are scared and more scared than you are. They don't remember what you said anyway. What they go home with is not the words. They go home with the music. That maybe I could be somebody someday. So make sure you play the music. And even if you can't remember how to put all the circles on the board right, it doesn't matter. Do as good as you can at it. Some of you had to hold your own first meeting and nobody did it for you. And you just went out and did it. Some of you had a sponsor who said he'd be there to help you and he didn't show up and you had to do it. Probably the best thing that ever happened to you. Because that's the day you realize that it was what you did and you had to take charge. But let me give you, I got 7 little items I put down as to the foundations of Amway. Not trying to preach a sermon, but you got to know the grounding on which we based our decisions and base our decisions today, and to which we have committed this company, our employees, our executives, to uphold these fundamental principles in all that they do. You know why? Because so many of you are here tonight because you've been beat out of something or disappointed in somebody or some company. And you said, there's got to be a better place than this. And so here you are tonight with a little bit of hope and a lot of fear and a lot of question about what you can do. But you see, I know you can do it. Because this is a business made for sinners. It's just made for people who screw up and do it wrong all the time. It's designed that way. If you had to be perfect, it wouldn't be any fun. And so stop worrying about whether you come with a speaking ability. I was working with a group on evangelism in my home recently, and a minister came to me, and he said, well, I don't witness about my faith at all because I got a flat voice. I speak with a monotone. And I looked at him, I got up from my chair and said, you've got to be kidding me. You're a minister. And you tell me you can't do it because your voice is flat. Who cares? It's what's in your heart that counts. And when you talk to somebody, they catch the vibrations from your heart more than they catch the words. And after a while, they'll figure out the words and they'll put it to the music. And then you can all sing together. But the foundations of the business were built on this. The first one is the concept that we began with, because that's the way we were brought up. That's the way I thought everybody was brought up, by the way. And that is that we believed in a God in heaven who loved us, created us, that nobody is an accident, even if their parents thought they were. That they're not an accident. They are here. And God placed them here. Dick talked to you about some single parents, and all I can do is salute you. And I don't know why it came unraveled for you or what went wrong, and quite frankly, I don't care. It's not on the application. You don't have to explain it to me or to anybody what heartbreak or disappointment you've had or what went wrong that night or whatever. You see, because we hold you in high regard as a child of God, regardless of all that. And that's what we can start with. And when we start with that, then all the other things take care of themselves, don't they? See? So that's the first foundation. Not trying to give you a sermon, I'm just telling you that's where Jay and I came from. And when we sat in the basement and talked about Amway the very first time, we talked about this very subject. And we said, people don't want welfare. And this was the age of socialism and everybody saying, well, they just want their unemployment checks and they want all this. And Jay and I said, that's not true. That's just not true. We believe that people want to be free and independent, earn their own way, make their own living. They're willing to work hard because they're worthy people. And on that, we will build a business. And that's how it began. Now, so be at ease. Get comfortable with yourself. Accept your shortcomings, your fears, your stuttering, or whatever problem you might have, or your monotone. Most of these people getting up here speeches, they all spoke in monotones when they started. They just think they're good now. And they only got that way by practicing for 20 years. So you can't compare yourself always with them. But you got to compare yourself with where they once were also, right where you are. So the first thing is a faith and belief in people and their value and who they are. And so the whole plan is built on that premise, you see, of trusting people. When we first started, and we would talk to some bankers, they say, the bonuses will never get paid. You run that thing down from sponsor to sponsor to sponsor. You think the money's ever going to get out the bottom? He said, yes. And if it isn't, we'll make up for it. I don't know if there's a dozen cases, or there are probably in hundreds after all these years where somebody didn't pay a bonus. But I just got to tell you, virtually all the bonuses have always been paid without question, without discipline, without anybody banging you on the head, because you are responsible people. And you're trustworthy. And so we move forward in that kind of faith. Then we talk as a foundation item, products. Products get lost sometime in this business. Sometimes the plan becomes bigger than the product, okay? We get so busy wanting to bring people in that sometimes we forget to talk about the products. When Jay and I started, by the way, you had to have 25 customers before you could sponsor anybody. We did away with that because we felt it slowed up the business. But it isn't wrong to get 25 customers, It's not bad. It's probably pretty good, in fact. It's even good to use them. It really helps. And while you may get excited about drawing the circles and bringing people in. But as you go along, if they don't use the products, you can have 1 million people, but if they aren't using it and selling a little, you don't have a business. So we have to be responsible for building quality products. And from the day we began with our products, we always said we got to find unique features. We got to have quality and value. And if they don't like it, we'll give them their money back. That didn't happen after we got going. That happened when we didn't know where we'd get the money to give them the money back. But we were committed that our products is something that when you sold it, you didn't have to leave town or sneak up on them next week in case you saw them on the street, or walk across the street so you wouldn't have to face them. And I know Bill was mentioning about all the other multi-level companies. If you ever want to watch the reasons companies who have tried to copy us, and I don't really know who's in second place either, Bill, and it really doesn't make any difference, because if they are, they're so far behind that it just doesn't make any difference. But everybody, every day, somebody is saying, we got the same thing as Amway. We're just like Amway. Well, let me tell you something. Most of them haven't done one nickel's worth of research on their product. They've never certified their product. They don't verify their product. They're not sure of their product. It sounds good. You'll lose weight. You'll gain weight. It'll keep your teeth. You won't keep your teeth. It'll make you look younger. It'll change your skin and everything. It'll do all this stuff. Maybe. And maybe not. But we sold soap for a very simple reason. Because most everybody we knew used soap. Not everybody. And so we decided if we had a product that everybody used, you didn't have to be very smart to sell it. And therefore, anybody could sell it. Again, coming back to that common denominator of learnable, teachable. So that when I can do it, then I can teach you to do it. And then we have unlimited reach with our potential on products. So rest assured that we continue in Ada to give faithful and diligent research and support to every product we offer, and we stand behind it with a total pledge. So be at ease with it. And you don't have to apologize for anything you sell with us. The third thing I want to talk about for a minute is the cause. You say, well, you must be in business to make money. Well, that's true. Of course we're in business to make money. A lot of you are here tonight because you say, how can I make some more money? I got some bills to pay. I got children to send to school. I got kids who don't have good clothes to go to school. Some of you are just on the bottom. And you wonder if you're ever going to get off the bottom. Some of you are pretty well up as professionals. You're doctors, you're lawyers, you're quite successful long before you ever heard of this. So why, Brett, what are you doing here? I mean, you got to be nuts. Go on home and operate on somebody or do something. But that isn't what brought you here. The cause of Amway brings you here. And when we talked about it in the basement, we sat and said, well, what are we going to represent? Now, in the Nutrilite days, we represented the idea of good health and helping people have good nutritional health. And we saw the benefits of that. So we could talk in terms of that. But selling soap, other than smelling clean, Even when we made air fresheners, you know, we were just a couple of steps ahead when people scratched 2 matches to get rid of the smell, you know. So some of you are too young to know about those days, huh? You didn't live in outhouses. You turned fans on. Listen, we used to burn a match. That's what gets rid of the odor in a bathroom. Smells like sulfur, but it smells better than the other stuff, you know. Those are the very first room fresheners. They were terrific. But we needed the cause. The cause, we decided, we didn't stumble into it. We said, our cause is going to be freedom and free enterprise. We're going to demonstrate the hope of those people who want to own their own businesses, do their own thing, rise to whatever level their abilities can bring them. And although socialism is sweeping the world, we're going to commit ourselves to the capitalistic free enterprise system in opposition to what most of the world today is claiming is the better way. And that's why we started. Sometimes I miss Russia the way it was. Because it was so easy in the old days to say, Russia has so many TV sets and we have so many. They got so many cars and we got so many. They had so many telephones and we got so many. And it was so obvious to me, the superiority of our system, while the rest of the world was turning to it, I could never comprehend it. I have a hard time with our own government someday comprehending how they can go in that direction. They confuse me. They say, oh, I'm in favor of freedom and free enterprise, but let the government do this. I said, no, let the people do it. They can do it better. See? The wealth of a nation is not created by tax dollars. The wealth of a nation is created by people who go to work every day, even when they don't feel like it, even when their kids are sick, even when they got problems at home, and they go to work to carry on and meet their responsibility. That's the wealth of America. And we oftentimes fail to take into account that it's those people. I marvel every day. Our plant opens, all the thousands of employees all over the world. There's nobody setting their alarm clocks. They set their own. They assume responsibility for their own conduct. They assume, just like you do, the responsibility for building your own business. That's what freedom is all about. That's what free enterprise is all about. It's freedom and responsibility. The rights of freedom always must be matched with responsibilities. Rights, responsibilities march forward together in a free world, and much of the world is struggling to learn that. Well, they gave me a nice award for free enterprise, but that became our cause. I made thousands and thousands of speeches on it. And then I ventured out and began to give that same speech around the world. And I find the rest of the world wanted to believe it too. That if you worked hard, you could get ahead and become somebody. And so today, that is the system of choice in the world. I know we still got a few pockets of people who are living in the dark ages. You know, Cuba's still, the old guy down there is trying to hang on and survive. I said it's either he's going to go out standing up or laying down, and it's going to happen soon. You know, it's just a question of which way he's going to go. Because at heart, the Cuban people want to be free. You can see what's happening to us there. All they want is what we got, isn't it? It's very simple. And we're going to continue to shout it, talk about it, and offer it around the world. And so we are in Brazil, and we are in these countries. We're in Thailand, where there are hundreds of thousands of Amway distributors. People say to me, Mexico, Mexican people don't have any money. I said, Mexican people got a lot of money, but they get something better. They're willing to work. And they want to get ahead. And we're there to help them realize those dreams. Anyway, the cause of Amway is free enterprise. My fourth little point, that means we're, well, not quite halfway. We're getting close. is when Jay and I first talked about it, to us the importance of owning our own business was important. Today it's kind of routine as you talk about it. It wasn't so routine in those days. It was kind of looked down upon. You get a good job with a company your dad was with and worked there for 40 years, and that's your life. But my father, Jay's father, always said to us, I don't care what you do, get in business for yourself. That became the message put in our heads all the time. Own your own business. Nobody takes care of your business like you do when you own it. In fact, if I ever ran an ad and said, help wanted, you can make $1,000 a month, but you're going to have to work every night. You're going to have people laugh at you, ridicule you. A year from now, they might all quit on you. Sign here. And of course, nobody will answer the ad. If I told you all the things you're going to have to put up with when you go in this business, you would quit before you start. Except for one thing. When you get through, it's yours. And that makes all the difference in the world. Let me move on. I want to talk about equality. The equality of the opportunity from day one. Today we talk about women's rights. When Amway began, it was never a question. Every Amway event, husbands and wives, whether the wife started the business or the husband started the business, both were always invited. So there was never a question of that. But we also got to make sure we have equality of opportunity as to whether you got a college degree or whether you barely struggled through grade school. There's a lot of inequality there between what you've done from an educational standpoint. But the Amway business doesn't ask you about that, does it? We say we don't care. We hope you got a lot of education. It may give you a leg up, but it won't keep you out. It's what you do from this day forward that counts in this business. Then we got to make sure our equality of opportunity remains within the economic reach of other people. We don't want to price it so high that they can't afford to start even or buy a kit. Early days, beginning of Amway, we used to have big discussions because in the old days you'd buy an application for $1. And that's all. Send it in, give it your $1, and you're an Amway distributor. We had people who didn't even know what they were in. So then we had a meeting one day, and we talked about you had to buy a little manila envelope full of literature so at least you'd know the name of the company. And it was a $5 pack and a starter kit. You couldn't believe it was a huge meeting where we were discussing this openly with the so-called leadership at that time, maybe 200 people. And the argument said, oh, that's too high. A lot of people won't get in if you charge $5. I said, but who cares if they get in if they don't know what they're in anyway? So let's charge them $5. At least they got something to take home and prove they're in it, whatever it is. And so we decided we had to make the entry fee at a point where people had enough information to make an honest beginning and know what was going on. But we always guard the price. It's one of the things, by the way, we argued with the Federal Trade Commission. And some of you must wonder sometime, why do you put the products and the kit together? Because the Federal Trade Commission, in our agreement with them, we said we will sell the kit at the exact cost that it takes us to produce it. And that's why you can take the sales kit separate from the products and start with that with nothing else, and there is no profit in it for us or for your distributor, your sponsor, for anybody. Because we want to make sure we don't profit at the point of entry or price ourselves beyond where people with less income wouldn't have a chance to make that new beginning. So we have to guard that as to what we do at the point of entry when we talk about equality. And of course, the black and white issue was not an issue, and the male and female, the genders were never an issue, and what your culture or background or religion were never issues. In fact, they're not even on the application, are they? We didn't ask for letters of recommendation. Once a psychological group asked if they could survey the diamonds so that we could find out what it was. If we could survey that group, we'd know what the characteristics are that make people successful. And then the only ones we have to recruit are those kind. I said, get lost, drop dead. I'm not interested. And I don't care if it helps or not. You know why not? Because if you do it on that basis, a lot of our people will overlook other people because they don't meet the profile. And therefore, don't get too scientific about who you recruit. Most of you already know those you expect the most from do nothing, and those you expect the least from do the most. So it's a guessing game. But it's not your choice anyway. And then I want to talk about the plan. We pitched the products a little bit. And remember those Amway products? Remember that? You know, Neutralite. You remember that? You heard of those? Oh, all right. The plan. And we talked about the quality of the plan, but I want to talk about the continuity of the plan. That it continues. To my knowledge, nobody else in the world does it. There may be some others who are trying to copy us today, but they aren't near enough to us, so we know what they're doing anyway. But for most of you, whoever thought at the company at which you work that if you died, your wife would automatically take over your job and continue to get the income? That doesn't happen. But it does here, doesn't it? Whatever energy you put in to build something continues to your wife or your spouse or your children and your children's children. And at Amway today, we pay bonuses to children's children. I don't know whether they use Amway products or not. We never said they had to. We said that, but because of what your parents did or your grandparents did when they started, we have a bonus payment system that as long as volume is generated, it passes through, and if you've got enough legs, you'll continue to get income forever and ever. A lot of guys told us that wouldn't work either. But you see, the way the plan works, it can go on forever. When Jay and I first started and we talked about a pass-through system to make the plan work ad infinitum, we rolled out a piece of butcher paper on the kitchen floor. You don't even know what that is, do you? You know plastic bags. A butcher paper came on a big roll and it was in the butcher shop, and he reeled out a piece and threw your meat on it and rolled it up in it. Put a piece of tape on it and you went home. We took that out and we laid it on the floor and we drew the plan out to the 200th level to make sure that it would work. And we figured if it worked 200 deep, it would work forever, which it does. And that's the miracle of the plan. But this ability to transfer, I want you to think not of just owning your business. You say, well, I got a Amway distributorship. No, you have an asset. You'll learn capitalism after a while, and you'll learn that you possess an asset. But instead of a piece of stock that you bought, you have gained an interest in your Amway business, which becomes an asset without paying taxes, by the way. And so you now gain an asset which you can trade or pass on to your children. And it's not just the cash you earn, but the value of the business itself and what cash it generates. So you're going to become huge capitalists in a way you've never thought of before, because of the assets in the value of your distributorship. And I say that to you because I want you to remember that. On the nights when you go home and nobody showed up, and it's raining and it's tough, and a few people went, ha, 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 ha. And you didn't do it very well, remember? And you wonder what was wrong with me. There was nothing wrong with you. They just came to laugh. I mean, some people just come to meetings to laugh. They weren't serious. It didn't matter what you say, you couldn't have got them. There's always a feeling, if I just said the right thing, they would have signed up. I said, their hearts weren't right. When their hearts weren't right, it doesn't make any difference. Let me just talk. Then I won't spend any other time on international. Your lines of sponsorship can go all over the world, and all that continuity continues, and pretty soon you get funny money coming in, and Canadian money, I get paid in Canadian money, and say, what's this stuff, And you get some Hong Kong money, and, Anyway, it's kind of fun. It's part of the capitalistic experience of dealing in all these currencies. So that's a part of it. And then the seventh point I want to bring has to do with a partnership between you and us. We're in this together. Everybody in the Amway company understands there is no other way to the market except through you. No one can come to this company and try to get a deal to buy direct from us. Say, there's only one way in here. You come in through an existing distributor. That's our promise to you, to preserve the concepts of your business. So we don't try to find a short circuit, or we don't go off and start selling in stores now that you've developed the market. We are partnered with you. And our goal, and our executives know the goal, is to help you become more prosperous. If you become more successful and prosperous, then the company will do okay. But if the company does okay and you don't become more prosperous, we're a disaster. So our number one priority is to help you make more, do more, be more, enjoy more, be happier, and move on with it. I can't always do all the things I'd like to do with interpersonal relationships between all of you, because you're all kind of competitors. But I got to plead with you always to kind of rise above that and say you all have discovered something really wonderful. And therefore sometimes you have to rise above a little pettiness. Who's speaking? Why don't they let me speak? Who's doing this? I've lived with a lot of those. But I'm calling on you to rise above to a new level. And keep your hearts right in the business. In my book, I talk about freedom as the primary driving force of compassionate capitalism. I talk about rewards based on performance, recognition that somebody appreciates you, and then hope for tomorrow, and you hope for a better life for your children and for those that are around you. Many of you are in here tonight because you want to do something better for your kids. You want to get them through school, whatever. That's why you're here. That hope. You aren't here because you want to make a lot more money for yourself. What if I just get my kids through college? If I could just help them to find the right partner for life, I could just help them grow up a little bit. And when you put these people in the presence of the Amway world, it isn't the money, it's the fact that your sponsor generates hope to your children. And others in your group give hope to each other. And we develop a bonding of helping one another. Bill mentioned to you that when we own the Orlando Magic, I really never intended to own a big-time NBA basketball team. It just sort of happened. The doors opened, and there it was. And somebody said, "Are you interested?" And I said, "Yeah." And the next day they said, "Okay, you got it." Well, not quite. But I went to a friend of mine and I said, "Do you think I ought to do that? Is that the right thing to do?" And he said, I would encourage you to proceed, because it's going to give you a whole new audience to spread the philosophy that you have of hope and recognition and reward. You can talk to ball players who talk to young people who are models to many people, and if you do it right, you can help them become models and do a better job. And you can impact millions of people you'll never touch otherwise. And so we began. I see some of the fruit coming from that. Recently, as some of you know, Horace Grant from the Chicago Bulls joined the Amway, or the excuse me, folks, joined the Magic organization. The commissioner said the contract wasn't right, but that's all right. We'll work that out. We'll get it taken care of. That's just a little nit we got to deal with. And the commissioner says, why would Horace come and take a pay cut to be with you guys? And I said, I'd like to tell you why. I spent 4 hours with Horace at our home. We talked about how he'd been treated, or he felt he'd been treated in Chicago. We talked about values. I surely couldn't teach him how to shoot a basketball or to block a shot. But I talked to him about our spiritual foundation, our respect for people, that I want to build a model team. I don't want any of our players evicted. I don't want any back talk to the refs, even if they're wrong. We're going to build an organization of champions on and off the team and how we conduct ourselves. That's our goal. And I got to have people who share that and believe that. We talked about where he'd grown up in Georgia, and the church he'd gone to, and his mother, and how he wanted to be with us. We signed him up that day. Or not that day, a few days later anyway, we got the deal done. And when he was introduced to the press in Orlando, he says, I want to thank God for bringing me here. And I want to thank Mr. Devos for giving me a sense of being a valued human being. That's why I'm here. And so the commissioner was having a little hard time figuring that all out. He says, no, it's just the money. Said, no, it's not just the money, Commissioner. It's a feeling of belonging where you're treated with respect and loved. And when you get that feeling and you radiate it out, we can, as you are doing now, move around the world, impacting people, not with the 3% or the detail of the plan, but that our hearts are right. And after the commissioner turned down his contract, and we'll take care of that, as I said, I talked to Horace again. I said, Horace, you comfortable? Are you happy? You all right? He said, I'm fine. He said, I know it's going to be right. I said, Horace, I know it's going to be right too, because our hearts are right. We have a common thing together that some of them don't understand, of mutual love and respect for each other. And therefore, we'll get the lawyers to figure out the details, or how the 3% works. That isn't what brings you in. And I hope you're here tonight because your heart's right. You're seeking maybe all of these things. And you got to have a foundation of hope and a little sense of security. And I hope the things I've told you about our business and the principles it stands on will hold you up in those long and lonely nights. The nights when one of your best groups quit, or something else goes wrong, or when they lose the faith. But don't let them take your faith when they go through that. As I gathered through my briefcase, I was looking for some jokes I could tell, and decided after talking to my wife I didn't have any. I looked through there and I found a piece of paper. I stuck it in there a couple years ago. And it's the contract I signed with Shaquille O'Neal the day he joined the Magic. So there's Shaq's signature and his signing up with us. When Shaq drops me a note, or when I talk to him, he says, "Hey, Dad, how you doing?" And when Horace Grant was flying on the airplane back to Orlando for the press conference, he said, "You're like my second father already, and I just met you." Our goal must be to make the lonely and the frustrated and the scared have that sense of hope and security that we can bring them. That's why you're here. And that's what we're all about. And I wish you God's choicest blessings on what you do. Thank you, everybody.